with us? Oh, wait, there's no chicken.
Well, I guess so y'all eating bread, so I'm just we're gonna turn the air conditioning on.
I go down.
Please get my jacket. Hold on, let me get this.
Everybody don't have to.
No, not mine.
I like different.
I always make sure my shot is different.
It's against the Black Panther 2.
Sorry.
Get the shoes.
All right, wait.
Right,
Switch
just
straight
let
ahead, just let them.
Alright.
That's a premium cannon. That's a good cannon.
We come with the flash.
Let's take a shot. With regard to diabetes, what do you do to monitor it, and how do you cope with it now?
Well, throughout the season, you will see that I had to take some proactive steps, not only from a medical standpoint, but from a diet, exercise, nutritional, holistic standpoint. I can tell you now that I am completely off insulin, off all diabetes medicine, and where in this hospital say my blood glucose fasting was about 479, which is pre-coma.
Oh, shit.
Wow.
And then, but right now, my daily blood glucose is around 98. So things have absolutely turned around. I still have a long way to go. But diabetes is a killer, particularly in the African American community. We have got to be aggressive because it leads to hypertension, heart disease. It damages all your other organs, renal failure. And so there are a lot of things, and in our community, particularly the faith community, we want to pray things away. And God's not healing diabetes; He's giving you discipline so
That you have to use.
so you can do it. So, God's not going to heal what you can control. He's super, but we can do the natural. So, so that's kind of where we are with that. It's 6 years I've been running from it.
Wow.
And then from that moment, it only took 4 weeks to turn it around because my life was on the line. And so I became very aggressive. And so my body wanted to heal. I just had to participate with it. So it didn't take long for things to turn. Well, we have a phenomenal physician who has given me a great regimen. And so getting off of these medicines and, sticking my fingers 3, 4, 5 times a day and, these huge needles in my stomach every day, it was horrible. It's absolutely horrible. I don't wish it on anybody. And I want my wife to interject here. I'm emotional when you say that because clearly you're invested in the show because you were mad at me. You knew me. One of the turning points, one of them, is my wife is sitting in the house and she's weeping. She says to me, "You don't love me." And I said, "What do you mean? I don't love you. I give everything for you. I fought for you to have all these nice things and all." She said, "I don't care about this." She said, "I told you when we got married, if we were living in a trailer on my granddaddy's farm, I was gonna be with you." She said, "But you don't love me." I was like, "Why do you say that?" She said, "Because you keep choosing food over me and these kids." So she said, "You chose them over me." So it hit me, okay? And you lost your grandmother and your mother down on East 23rd and 1st Street at the Veterans Memorial Hospital. My father died December 7th of 2000 from a diabetic coma.
Really?
Right here. So New York carries a significant weight. When we were in New York, I guess we were dealing with, was it when we found out about, I guess the next season or something, we were driving past the hospital. When we found out, yes, we were doing press for the show last year, and I said, "Wait a minute, this looks familiar." And I looked up, and we were in front of the hospital where my dad passed away, and I was the last one to see him alive. And it was just so significant that God was saying, "I'm giving you a chance to extend the legacy, or you could end up being, on the other side of it." So share your heart about kind of that part of the journey.
I think that it's important for people to know that it wasn't overnight. It's something that you're going to have to continue to try for. It's a state of becoming, just like marriages. You don't become one at the altar. It's your life process to become. You want to become great, it takes a process. You want to overcome an addiction, it takes a process. So he's in the process of changing for the better. So we tackle one thing, have a little setback, restart again, and that's what's important for people to know. If you fall off, you can come back. And the other part is we don't have it all together. We're not perfect. We're completely transparent and naked in front of people, if you will, because perfection is hard to attain, and that is not what people are attracted to. People are attracted to brokenness and you being real and authentic and transparent about your own struggles. We don't have it all together. What makes you qualified to help other people through their things, right? Well, a lot of times I don't know what I'm going to say to people, but I will open my mouth and the Lord will speak through me. And that's just what we've been called and chosen to do. And I believe that the more we fight for others, the more God meets us in our own struggles.
That's right.
And being able to show it, we didn't consider it as, hey, look at our family, because we're just like everybody else. But I think that God has chosen a voice in my husband, and I want everyone to know that I'm standing and I'm fighting with him in this same journey. Like, I'm not like, okay, you got it, you're the personality, you're the big voice, let me fall back. No, I'm gonna be right there, taking the Coke away. He had one tonight, we're celebrating, but take it,
She's the first one. I drink Coke Zero. She won't let me have.
Yeah, he's like Coke, and then it's like zero. You know what I'm saying? So I feel very strongly that what God is doing is changing us in front of you as we attempt to meet people where they are with a real and authentic love of God, which means that you can come to him broken and not have it all together first. And that is what this docu-series hybrid about faith and love and the journey is about. Each episode doesn't wrap up in a pretty bow where you know what's happening with the person, and they may not even actually change, but we give them what we have and what God has given us and seeded into us, and we pour it out and we deposit it into other people, hoping that they understand that somebody really does care about what they're walking through. And a lot of people, we hear these wonderful stories. A lot of people from the first season, had great manifestations in their lives. I don't know if you all were familiar with the young lady that was trying to have a kid and exhausting all of her resources and messing up her marriage by focusing on, I want to get pregnant, I want to get pregnant, I want to get pregnant. Well, the Lord blessed them with twins. But she had to focus on what she did have and be grateful for what she did have first. And that's where God met her. It's like, okay, now I can use you. So it's just kind of redirecting. But then we have Kaylana, who I had to get on in the teens episode, and you will probably see her again because she didn't quite get it. You know what I'm saying? So I think that it's really real, because people don't change and stay perfect. People change, they have a setback, and then they try again. But you don't throw people away.
That's right.
Yep.
Because they don't stay on a path. We are all human, and you have to allow people to be human and to grow and to develop. So that's what my husband is doing. That's what I am doing, even with my thyroid issues, and then that's what we're trying to seed into our children. So Tami is a great friend of ours. She and I have been walking with each other for a while, and I really feel strongly that it is not for the show. She just happened to say that she would like for people to see her changing, because she really is. And I think with Tami's story, she's unique because she's evolving, which all of us do. I am not at 36 the same avatar I was at 26 or 16. There are cycles and seasons of each life. each phase of life. With Tami, she is in a place where she's tired of what she's been known for. The popping off, the Liddy in the city, don't try me, I'm this, I'm that, and you don't want to fool with me. She has daughters that she wants to bring light to, that she wants to sow into and give. She has great wisdom. She is very strong, but she has these incredible triggers like most of us do, and she's kind of battling with the evolving Tami versus the one that she's known for. And all of us come to a place in our life where we were like, what do we really want to be known for? So she's trying to establish her legacy at this point. And she doesn't want it to include Tami who pops off on the Basketball Wives. She wanted to be, I grew, I changed, and now I'm able to tell you how I overcame what my triggers were and the things that caused me to be this way from the beginning, because it comes from a deep place of pain that we were able to tap into. I was, as a friend and as a confidant and as a close sisterhood we had, and then she was kind of scared to face John. It was like, I don't know if I want to talk to him, girl. I might say a cuss word or two, and we're like, listen, do what you need to do because you're trying to find that healing and that peace. So it really bothers me when people want to judge you and keep you where you were, and they hate to see you grow. Like, why is that a problem? Because she wants to grow, it's like she can't grow, she's not worthy of growth. So I really took that story very seriously and close to my heart, because I know that what she is doing now is growing into the person that wants to establish a legacy, wants to seed into her children, and wants to be able to speak to those people who have walked through some of the same aspects of her life that caused her to act away as she grew into this person. So now she wants to change, and now she wants to be known for something greater and better. And that's why we chose her, and well, she chose us and we chose her to walk with, because we know it's real to her.
I think, and that's, you couldn't sum it up better. As an addendum, I'd like to add that, you know, the monetization of the black femininity and the caricature of certain behaviors has become its own commodity. And I think there's a part of Tami that wants to resist being portrayed in a manner that, yeah, it might generate revenue, but at what expense? It's at the cost of your soul, you know? And black femininity now is the hottest commodity across every platform. We've known it forever, but now everybody else is catching up. When you see a phenomenon like a Black Panther, who we are celebrating what Ryan Coogler did as a director and a co-writer, but the reality is 67% of that first weekend's audience was non-black. That's a significant shift in the way people see black femininity. We need to change and redirect, and I think the power of this season is that you start with an Aventer Gray and a Tami Roman having honest dialogue about what it means to be wives, or what it means to be a mother, what it means to be an entrepreneur. To see my wife evolve this season from the person that people were introduced as the wife of John Gray, but now she's standing alone. Yeah. She is a COO. She runs ministry. She handles transitions from one mega ministry to another, and she still balances ice skating lessons for our daughter and piano for our son, and she runs this household. She's so many things. And in this moment, we get a chance to see, you know, two women who are walking towards the same goal in different ways. And the way that interaction and that interplay kind of walks itself out over these 8 episodes over these next couple months is going to be amazing to see. Tune in.
The FAMU Aventer can meet you at any given moment if I need to. So I was just letting her know, yes, I love God. Yes,
Tell me about the FAMU after. What does that mean?
Well, if I have to, you know, get somebody together, it's not far, you know, it's not far out of reach, but that's being real. That's being real. I love God. I'm, you know, pastor's wife and all of that. But please, you can talk about me. But if you talk about my husband or my kids, I might feel away. And I might let you know in a nice way on Instagram. But I'll do a post like from my kids. But I'm really telling everybody what I want to say. But something like that. But I mean, I think we all have it. And when I was telling her in the clip that I think a lot of people have already seen, everybody has these two people. And one is trying to like bait the other one down. You got bad avatar, you got good avatar, and the one that you see the most, the scripture that you place inside of you, the positivity, the affirmations, everything that's great, surrounding yourself with a tribe and a team who will push you towards your best you versus the one that you would rather leave in the past, because everybody has a past, you know, is the one that's going to win. So I think that what Tami is doing is trying to find the best version of herself that we have in our minds, that her legacy will be. Tami was X, Y, and Z, but wow, did you see that amazing nonprofit that she just started, who has seeded so many thousands of people with, you know, oh, she was whatever, maybe abused or whatever. I mean, whatever she is, you'll hear. But those things will be the things that outweigh the terrible things that we, you know, she was throwing wine glasses and standing on tables and all that kind of stuff, showing out, that kind of thing. So we really want people to understand that you aren't discredited or disqualified from your purpose because you had a moment in your life where you were not yet, you know, mature enough to understand what you were standing in.
I don't read the comments for a number of reasons. Number one, I don't have time, but more importantly, I don't care. And most of my Instagram is pictures of my wife and my kids. I don't put up clips of me preaching. That just feels weird. It's just like, look at me. Look what I just did. And I'm not hating on people that do that. I just feel like if you want to hear the sermon, go listen to the whole thing. Every now and then I might have a little nugget, but I don't utilize social media for that purpose. But there are ways that we escape. I think one of the ways that my wife has a chance to decompress from being a wife and mommy and, you know, businesswoman, you know, social media is an outlet since she doesn't get a chance to watch her favorite TV shows and we don't have time. So she'll probably scroll through and she'll be like, did you hear what such and such said? I'm like, it's 358 comments. How did you know, I don't.
God wanted me to see.
I don't, here's my philosophy on social media, this entire space. You're gonna be a target. So people aren't gonna like you. Normally they got 14 followers, private account,
And a picture of
a flower. You know? Like, I don't like you, your kids is ugly, you fat, you know, whatever. You know, that's who they are. That didn't define me. In the same way, I can't get excited when everybody's celebrating. You know, the scripture says Jesus never committed himself to man, for he knew what was in man. So when they were celebrating him, he was like, I'm not moved. When they hated on him, I'm not moved, because he understood what his role was. My role right now is to preach an uncompromising gospel, learn how to love my wife, learn how to be a good father, and die a long time from now with a good name. That's it. So I don't get all caught up in social media. She gets on me because I mess up posts. I don't put up the hashtags. I don't follow up. You know, it's a tool. I use it and then I move on. What are your thoughts on it?
I think for me, and I don't know, my husband has tried to help me not be moved, but it is hurtful. And I've talked to our friends like, you know, Erica and Tina and other friends of ours that have shows or that were in the reality space. When they say things that just aren't true, it's like, but you can't catch them all, and the best thing to do is not respond because you're elevating them to a place that, you know, they might not have had any attention. If you keep going back and forth, something about your purpose is going lacking because your attention is focused on that versus what you should be getting further into your book, into your script, into something that God told you to do. So I struggle with that. I like social media. I think it's a wonderful tool, but at the same time, it can get you off of your intended purpose. So I'm doing better with it. I'm just being real honest. It is hurtful, especially when people aren't telling the truth, or when people are defending something that is absolutely true that somebody posted, and they're like, you know, they have the stories all wrong and twisted. But, you know, I don't know. There's a thirst and a craving for foolishness that people love. It's like, what is it, the endorphins or whatever? You're addicted to.
Yeah, there's a certain chemical that's released when you're on social media.
Engaging with all these people and having these interactions and these conversations, and some of these people you may know and some of them you may never ever see, but I think it's just a learning aspect. I think one of the episodes will show how invested we are in getting a certain group of people to interact without social media for a little while, so that's going to be fun to see as well. So we evolve in this space as well as we try to teach others about it and what it does. Well, I'll start. You can. I think that there are some things that you can't ask to be delivered from, because those things are in your life to mature you and to develop you and to grow you. So as long as you're faced with them, you see where you really are. Sometimes you think you're over a thing until you're met with it again. And then sometimes you don't know how you're going to react until you have to react. Mm-hmm. It depends on what situation you're in. You might see a very different avatar if somehow one of my kids, you know, God forbid something happens to them and it was at the hand of an individual that, you know, meant us no good. I don't know how I would act. I don't know. And I think for Tami, I think it was, you know what, be honest about where you are. You know this person is probably going to come at you wrong. You have to be in this work environment with them. But if they meet you with negativity, find it in yourself to bless them. Tell them something they don't expect to come out of your mouth, so you can free yourself. And then they can be out there looking like, really, did she just say that to me? Oh, that's fake, or that whatever. But I'll let them talk. And I know it's hard, but it's a work. You have to work on yourself. And you have to be able to pull on the thing that you want the most. I want to be known for this. Therefore, you aren't worth pulling me back to the place that I'm trying to graduate from.
Amen. We had a question with the hat.
Rattler? No, I'm just kidding. It probably is a thing. You know, there is an episode. I can't give away too much, but
no, y'all gonna watch.
There is an episode where a little bit of this part is addressed with other women who are in the position that I am now stepping into as a senior pastor's wife, and some things that they have dealt with and some things that they were met with. My current First Lady, Pastor Victoria Osteen, had an amazing comment about that, because a lot of people love her husband. And I'm not gonna, I don't want to tell everything, but what I do want to say is I'm aware of the wannaboos. I have a son. That's my term. I was gonna unveil it on the show, but my term for them are wannaboos. There are women who, if your husband, not necessarily just mine, compliments you, you heard something completely different. And then our husbands sometimes have blind spots because he is a pastor and he has to be loving and he has to be open. However, I am also the eyes that can see the things that he may not be able to see. So I am very, I am reserved, but if someone's like, oh, I just love your husband, I just love my husband too, and I'm gonna make sure he knows it. You understand what I'm saying? And I just put it on me. If I'm championing him at home, if I'm doing what I am supposed to do, that is what I'm gonna focus on, and I'm not gonna worry about anybody else who's trying to do whatever, because first of all, I'm legal because I'm inside of the marriage and you're not. Second of all, if we teach women how to, if they desire to be married and a man is already married, then that's not your husband, clearly. I don't care what it feels like, what it looks like. We just have to teach each other about growing and developing. And I just feel strongly that the wannaboos, if they see something that looks great, it's no longer great if you try to turn his attention from me to you. Because what you loved about him, he's now not that.
Right.
he's now unfaithful and he's now on a path to something that you don't want. I don't know, because I've never been a side chick, so I don't understand that whole mentality. But I would like to have a Wannaboos conference at some point just to show that, you know, the pastor is not your husband, he's your pastor.
Well, what about the other side of that coin? What about, you know, a men's ministry, to have men finally step up to the plate so that the Wannaboos can
I've been
direct
thinking
their
about that, trying to figure out how we can engage men. The reality is, there's a generation of men who weren't taught how to be husbands or fathers. And then with the proliferation of media raising children, many young men don't know how to even understand what it means to build a legacy, to have a vision. Because there are women who are waiting for a man, not just so they can have somebody to go to dinner with and have intimacy with, but a vision. People want something that will outlast them. And we have to train the minds of men to see life through a different lens. Because from what I understand, this guy's 40 years old, still in the club. Oh, why are you in the club?
Absolutely.
You still playing games. You need to be setting up legacy. You need to be thinking about retirement, Roth IRAs. You need to be thinking about raising your children. Do you want your daughter to be caught up with somebody like you? You know,
Wow.
and so we've lost a generation of men. You know, what the 50s and 60s did is we had to cover our households because we weren't sure if daddy was coming home. So mama was praying, but daddy was working. And they made ends meet. We had to be in community. We had to fight for something bigger than ourselves. But now it looks like we've arrived. And so men don't have responsibilities anymore. It's each man for himself. The idea of collective responsibility, building families, the entire nuclear family idea is now, you know, a dinosaur. We're in the age of living your truth, an age of moral relativism, and secular humanism. And so we're in a place now where we don't really need one another, and that's what's being proliferated. I don't agree with it, but the reality is it's not popular. And so a lot of men are not trained, nor do they know how to build a family, to pursue a wife. You can swipe and choose now. You can't swipe to find no wife. You can't swipe to find a soulmate. You know, you have to engage on a soul level. This is very, very close to my heart. This will probably take longer than we have here because we need to move on, but I would love to do a men's conference of all single men, and the whole purpose of it is to get them marriage ready and then deploy them and give them a 6-month contract to go find a wife. This is not rocket science. If you have a vision and then you have a template for the type of woman you need for your life, go get her. Stop being scared, because that's a part of it. We don't want to fail, so we keep our options open.
And then be honest about where you are.
Just for that,
Yeah.
because I think women are not really operating from a place of wannabe. Women are operating from a place of lack. There's a lack of communication. There's a lack of partnership. There's a lack of undergirding. There's a lack of this man is going to be my buttress. There's a lack, you know. And I know women consume the church. I used to be a member of a mega church in LA called Church of the Harvest, and
To train them, but it's also to train women to be cool with where they are, because sometimes we settle and we redirect and we shift what we know that God has said about us to fit a narrative because of the lack. So we'll not necessarily fall for anything, but we'll conform so that we can have a little bit less, just to say that we're with someone instead of waiting for the one
Yikes.
that God has prepared for you. Because my husband and I were both engaged to other people. They're great people. They just weren't for us. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I think that a lot of us have to adopt that mantra of letting things go when you realize that they're not going to work, instead of allowing it to linger for 4 or 5 years down the road, and then you're that much further away from your intended purpose and destiny, and have to reroute to get back on track. But then you're hurting, then you're carrying brokenness, then you're carrying, you know, a lot of pain that could have been avoided. However, I would love to say that every relationship is a success. I believe that there are no failed relationships, and here is why. If that relationship didn't work out, you will perform and you will act differently to get a different outcome in the next one, which means you are very successful in getting to the actual person that is meant for you to be with. I'm grateful. I say this to my husband, like, whatever. I'm grateful for my ex-fiance because I wouldn't have been weighty enough and have enough character to carry the man of God that the Lord had for me had I not gone through some things with him. I might have missed him.
So you think men lack the ability to make commitments nowadays?
Not every man. I don't think we've been trained. We haven't raised a generation of men to value legacy in the way that it has been in the past. Anyone who would deny that the family dynamic has changed in the last 20 years is not looking at statistics or just the eye test. There are so many hurting people, and we've lost a generation of men through a number of things. And we could go politics, we could go 13th Amendment, we can go drugs, we can go targeting, we can go police brutality, we can go lack of education, we can do a lot of things. And it breaks my heart because we were going somewhere when our leaders were killed, when Dr. King was shot, when Medgar Evers was shot, when Malcolm X was shot. We were something stronger when we had to be. Then in the 70s, we lost our identity. Blaxploitation films began to show us as pimps and prostitutes, and black femininity was over-sexualized. And in the 80s, when we tried to reemerge from that coma, we started expressing ourselves through hip-hop right here in New York, and then that was monetized into gangster hip-hop and East versus West, and black men got killed while other folk got rich. And then in the 90s into the 2000s, and we find ourselves here where we are now with an absence of fathers, with women raising multiple generations of young men, and they're still heartbroken because they're raising kids that look like the man that broke their heart. You know, so it's not that men don't want to; they haven't been trained. You know, and so we got a lot of reckoning in our community. We got a lot to deal with in our community. And let me bring it back around. The reason why this show now speaks more than ever in a fragmented media society, a fragmented television space, to have a show that unapologetically deals with the dynamic of a husband and a wife, children and faith, family, community, physical sickness, two supernormal people serving a supernatural God and not being judgmental about it. It's the only show of its kind. And it's something that is rare, and I think we have an opportunity to show something that people haven't seen. And I think it's something people need to see. A broken man trying to figure out how to maximize his phenomenal woman while raising his children, and us doing that together as a team. To everybody in this room, life is short, and this is what the scripture says. All my days were written when as yet there were none of them. All my days were written in your book. How precious are your thoughts towards me, oh God. How precious are the sum of them. I couldn't number them if I tried. You're not looking at a television star. You're not looking at a media personality. You're looking at the product of a divorced home, father and mother whose marriage didn't make it. 4 years old, my father walked out the door, never to return. But I had a mother who loved God and who raised me to know who Jesus was. I was 5 years old, and she asked God, who am I raising? She said, God told her, you're raising a leader. One night I was watching Walter Cronkite, the World News, and while I was watching that instead of cartoons, God says, you're raising a world leader. So train him and develop him as such. And so my single mother, who was going to college at night while working full-time during the day, raised me, prayed for me, and fought for me so that I wouldn't become one of the statistics of my neighborhood. I say all that to say, television can be very illusory in that it shows the best and hides the rest. What Aventer and I were determined to do is show every page in the book, the good and the bad, to show the flaws, to show the scars, because real life is where miracles happen. For each person in this room, we all have a destiny. We all have a purpose. Each of you here has a calling, a gift, a fingerprint that will never be seen again in the history of the planet and has never been seen before. Each one of you, whether your media space or your position at your particular place of employment, gives you an opportunity to have a platform bigger than your individual voice. You have been given something that no one else will ever have. You're in this room tonight, not just because you're excellent at what you do. I believe you're here because you were chosen. And my wife and I just happen to be a part of your book in the same way you're a part of our book. I believe that this moment, this show, is necessary and critical, not because we want to be famous, not because we want the show to be a success. I believe that this show is necessary because people need hope to know that it's okay to miss it and get back up, to struggle and still believe, to shed tears and wipe those tears away and keep on walking. Because you know what? That's real life. Real life is student loans, trying to figure out how we're going to pay them. Real life is car notes. Real life is heartbreak. Real life is seeing the person that broke your heart, but because you're lonely, you don't remember the heartbreak as much as you remember the good feelings, and you forget why you broke up with them in the first place, and now you're struggling with the emotions of, do I go back to the thing that was trying to kill me? Real life is where we live. TV is where we escape. What this show is real life and an escape, because it shows you what you are, and it also shows you what you can be. And that's the gift that each one of you has. With your creative gifts, with the opportunity that you've been given in this life, you can take your gift and maximize it using your platform to bless other people. What would happen if we all got on the same page in the same book at the same time? What if the God who spoke you and spoke me and declared destiny for each one of us wanted us in this room today, not just so we could talk about the show, but celebrate the fact that each of us comes from a different lens. I'm not here to preach. Ain't gonna be no altar call when I'm done in just a few moments. I literally wanted to take this minute to speak life to each person in this room and tell you thank you. Not for coming to support me and my wife, but thank you for becoming everything you had to be to get to this moment yourselves. You are to be applauded, because this room is not just about us. This room is about you. This room is about your influence. This room is about your power. This room is about your gift, because the word's gonna go out because you're in here. If you're not here, we just had dinner.
Right.
But because you're here, now the influence of this room can go beyond the four walls of this restaurant. The power of this room is the power of potential, the power of possibility, and the power of prayer. Because I'm a product of prayer. And I know Aventer Gray is a product of prayer. I met her mama. I know her mama, Bonnie Cotton. She's a miracle walking. 3 aneurysms. 1 of them burst, 2 of them bubbling. They said she'd be a vegetable if she survived. She's sitting now in our house, and she is the head of the usher board and on the trustees, First Missionary Baptist Church in Dothan. I understand prayer and the power of miracles. They told my mother she had 3 months to live, stage 4 pancreatic cancer, spread to every organ in her body. And that was June 23rd of 2011. And she told the doctor, I'm glad you said I have no hope. Now you won't get credit when God heals me. 4 days later, she went into surgery, and they searched for 3 hours and couldn't find 1 cell of cancer in her body. So when I stand here today talking about the power of God writing your story, you're talking to somebody who watched God tell the devil no. Because the devil tries to hit you with an exclamation point, but all he is a comma. And I'm called to step over the comma and be everything that God called me to be. And my hope and my heart for you is that you take this moment and let the book of John Gray be a launching pad for you to understand that your gift, your calling, and your book is still being written. And it is finished with you as the victor, and with your peace, your joy, and your dream intact. You will get to the end, because God never stops a book in the middle. He finishes it before he starts it, and he finishes it with you happily ever after. So my prayer for you is, even as David said, all my days were written when as yet there were none of them. My prayer is that you'll understand that our book is no different than your book. Right now, it's our journey that's being celebrated, but I wanted to take a moment to celebrate your journey, your gift, your calling, and your influence. And my prayer is that this show will not just be a beacon for you, but for anybody who watches. Whether you are an individual of faith, like-minded faith, or a different faith, we all believe in something bigger than ourselves. And if by chance you're not an individual of faith, thank you for coming and giving us an opportunity to share our heart. Because everybody should be able to live and believe how they wish. So we don't impute our beliefs onto anybody else, but this is the filter through which we've chosen to live. We love God, we believe in Jesus, we believe in our love, we believe in raising them kids upstairs on the 21st floor that are throwing pillows around. You gonna spank them? Tell Lily to bring my kids down here. I want them to see history. I want them to see in the same city where their grandfather died, I want them to see that the name lives on. See, because I'm John Gray the third. My son is John Gray the fourth. And John Gray Jr. was the one that died on East 23rd and 1st. And the promise I made to him on his deathbed on December 7th is that I'm going to make your name good in the earth. Told him that. I told him that 18 years ago. And here we are in the city 18 years later.
Wow.
And not only am I here, but his grandson is here in New York, celebrating the second season, the second chapter of the book of John Gray. So I'm a living witness that if you stay faithful, stay humble, and treat people right, God will give you and get you where you're supposed to go. So my prayer for each of you is that you live your greatest life, that you fulfill your wildest dreams, and that you utilize and steward your influence to be a beacon of hope in a dark and broken time. Thank y'all for coming tonight. God bless you.
Amen.